Welcome to Part of the Arts with me, Rebecca Godden. In this episode, we chat with Lydia Shaw. A writer, performer, teacher and coach, Lydia's creative journey spans directing and writing the audio musical Hatched, a finalist for the Styles and Drew Prize 2024, to her extensive performing credits in musical theatre and cabaret. As a versatile writer, Lydia has worked on plays, TV pilots, novels and musicals, including Arthur's Quest, which earned rave reviews at the Edinburgh Fringe. With over 15 years of teaching experience, Lydia also runs Step Up Vocal Coaching, where she helps individuals speak with confidence and impact. Join us as we dive into Lydia's diverse career, her passion for creative work, and her dedication to empowering others in the arts. Hi, Lydia. Welcome to Part of the Arts.
Good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming on. Great to have you here. I'm gonna go straight in today and ask you, what is something you've seen recently that's left you with a spark?
Yeah, I thought about this one. It's so hard because there's so many things. Can I have two?
Okay, just because it's you.
Okay. Firstly, I know it's a bit basic now because everyone loves it, but Operation Mincemeat, I just think it's one of the best things I've ever seen. I think it's so inspiring where they came from, coming up through the Fringe and developing themselves and getting that support. I think that is so inspiring for theatre makers. But I think as well, just everything about it is so on point. And I think it's done with so much passion and care and love. It's so funny, it's so heartfelt, it's so snappy, which I love from a show. I love it when there's like snappy. No time to even like think about anything else. I absolutely thought that was so exciting, partly because of exactly the material and partly because of their journey there. I think
from Fringe, like you said, off West End to where it is now, and I feel like a lot of us have like followed that journey in the industry. Like, you've seen it go and on social media, and I remember when it first came out, I really wanted to see it in its fruition, and I just wasn't able to get there. And then part of me was like, damn it, it's more expensive now. But then the other part of me was like, oh, that's amazing though, it's more expensive now because they've made it.
Yeah, and they've made it on Broadway and they're extending there. Like, it's so exciting to see, because I think we'll probably end up talking about this, but obviously it's so hard to get new musicals anywhere these days. And so I think it's just so exciting that that's got there. And I think that they're really advocating for other theatre makers who are not working on that huge commercial level. So I think that's really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's your second one? Go on, hit us.
Well, we were talking about other multimedia, about different media. I was listening to How to Fail with the interview with Dame Harriet Walter.
Oh,
Have you listened to that episode?
I've not listened to that episode, but I do love that podcast, so I do need to.
I go in and out of podcasts, and I'm in a
I am
podcast season.
I'm exactly the same, and I get really addicted to like one, and then I get bored of it. I don't listen to it for months, and then I'll come back to it, and that's kind of where I'm at with How to Fail. I listened to Stephen Merchant's one the other day.
That's next to my
really interesting, and he talks about being a tall person, and as a tall person, not as tall as him, but as a tall woman in the industry, 5'10". That is classed as a tall woman in the industry, and it's just really interesting how he talks about that. So if you're tall, listen to that. It's not all
I'm
that
really short, but I will listen anyway.
That's not all it's about. Also, if you love his work, comedy, all that stuff, it was just
what people could listen to.
That just resonated with me. How did this episode resonate for you then?
Oh my gosh, there was so much that she said. But there was one thing she said that I thought was fascinating about performing, and she was saying, obviously she's at a point where she can do this, but she was saying, I never take on a role if I know how I would do it.
Oh.
So I just think that's so brave and so like fearless to be like constantly challenging herself, never allowing oneself to kind of sit on the laurels of like, I kind of know I've done this kind of before. She was saying she's going for things that are completely unlike anything she's ever done before and seeking that challenge. And I just think that's so inspiring.
Not staying in your comfort zone, which is easy to do as human beings.
And also I think as a performer, because people are desperate to not just typecast you, but typecast you in a very specific genre. And so I think it's so loves, I obviously, she's at a point in her career where she can do that, but I
She
think
can afford to do that. Yeah.
she can afford to, and the roles are there.
Yeah.
But I still think that it's really exciting that I just think that's so inspiring that she's actively seeking that out. And yeah, I mean, she's obviously done so many amazing things. But anyway, the whole episode was incredible. So
Oh gosh, I'm gonna listen to that now.
definitely recommend.
Because it's also that sharing that she still has that joy for performing and that excitement, because I think we actually as performers have to remind ourselves of that at times, because sometimes it can just feel like a grind, and it can just feel like you're waiting for that next thing that's maybe better than what you're doing. But living in the moment of where you're at, even if it's not your comfort zone, even if it's not your casting, as it were, and maybe not quite where you'd have seen yourself, I think actually being like, well, this is a challenge. This isn't what I would normally do, but actually let's flip it on its head and to actually seek that out. That's a great way to flip it on its head and rewire your thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think keeping the joy and excitement of it alive. I've actually been back in acting, like professional acting classes. I'm on a course at the moment, and it is, oh my God, it's honestly one of the greatest things I've ever done in my life. It's changed me as a person and as a performer. And what she's done is she's incredible, taught me so much, but she's just reignited my love for the craft. And I'm reading loads of plays, and she's just got me so excited again in it. And also, once you start getting into that and doing different stuff, then you start believing in yourself more, and you feel like you're in it, and you just want to be a student of it and try new stuff. And I think that experience of just reigniting that passion for it, probably having got stuck in particular casting areas, it's just so refreshing that she's going, yeah, you can do this part, and giving me something that no one else has given me the opportunity to do, and getting in class and just doing it. And I think,
and being in a workshop setting, I did an R&D recently, and I had a similar feel. I was, thinking, God, having this opportunity just to play and be pushed and to push myself, and also kind of get a bit of positive reinforcement from the creative director in the room, because when you're constantly, we'll talk about your expansive portfolio in a minute, when you're constantly doing everything, when you're directing, you're producing, you're writing, you're acting, we both, me and you, kind of weave between all of those worlds with what we do, which is great. But you don't get to just be as an actor or be as a creative in a room and be able to play, because a lot of the time you're facilitating that and in it and trying to be like everything to everyone. And oh my gosh, that R&D, I was like, what I got paid for it as well, so I was like, what an absolute joy to be in a 4-day intensive R&D, like full days, just me and 3 other actors and the director, and just play. And sit in the craft of it, rather than having to be like, as you say, running the room, which when you're sort of facilitating sessions or workshops or teaching or coaching, so you spend so much of the time focused, you don't get to actually go and focus on your own activity. You're really just focused on other people. Your brain is just constantly thinking of everything that could need help. You're kind of like, how can I help? How can I help? How's this person doing? Oh, hang on, I need to then think about the writing. No, hang on, have I done this? And it's quite you can't just be one thing. So I think I encourage myself on a regular basis. I don't do it enough, but to attend more workshops and to go to classes, not just teach them, because again, I output so much but don't actually receive a lot, and it can only make me a better facilitator.
Well, I think it really enriches what you're doing, especially when facilitating and teaching and stuff, because every time you learn stuff, either you just are a more inspired person who's better in a room, more positive, more excited to be there, like working on the craft. But you can also, you're not going to bring everything from classes into teaching, but there's always elements that you can go, oh, here's a tip that you can take. And I think in all careers, but especially as creative, we are lifetime learners. We are forever learning. Even if you learn all day, every day for the rest of your life, you'll never learn everything. And that's really exciting. And I think it's just finding places where you can, and finding the time and committing the time to continual learning, I think is exciting.
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. Like balancing the rest days and the
Well, yeah. Rest days, what are they?
I was about to say, I was like, this is technically one of my rest days. And look, I'm creating, I'm learning from you. And do you know what? This podcast has done that for me as well. Just chatting to people in my industry and just learning from each other and talking about our experiences and sharing in that has been great for me. So I am with you on the learn, keep learning. Never done.
Yeah, never done, never cooked.
Talking of learning, how have you kind of, I guess, weaved your way throughout your career? Because again, you've got quite an expansive portfolio spanning throughout the arts, producing, directing, writing, performing, vocal coaching, you name it, Lydia's done it.
Yeah.
Doing it, which I love. She's a hustler. Girl after my own heart. So kind of, without doing the basic kind of CV, this is where I started and this is where I am. How has that journey been for you? Like creatively, how did you fall into some stuff, or, how did you pave that way for yourself?
I think honestly, all of it is just grit and determination and pushing forward and throwing a lot of mud at a lot of walls, which most people would not have even known or seen, and some little things stuck. And I think as well, I think it's easy to get despondent when you're not getting in the rooms you want to be in, if you're not getting the jobs you want to getting the opportunities you want to get. And I think you've got two choices at that point. Well, you've got three. You can give up, you can keep going but be grumpy about it, or you can just do something yourself and whatever it is. And for me, I think it's channeling that creativity into something. And it doesn't necessarily, it can be anything. And I think that's why I have so many jobs, is because it's gone in different places. And, perhaps once paths have been really well trodden, and then like, okay, well, I can keep a bit of this, but then what's another path to keep me excited? So obviously, so I went to university, actually, while I was there, wrote a musical with Ed, took it to the Fringe.
At uni?
Yeah, it wasn't anything to do with the uni, but we just did it.
When I was God, when the rest of us were just getting drunk at the SU.
I was doing that too. Don't need a rest day. Just get
yeah, she was. Yeah, to be fair, I was having paid acting gigs at uni already, and everyone was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, this is why I'm here."
Hustling. Yeah. And so we did that. And I mean, we were beautifully young and naive. So I'd never even been to the Fringe before. So we were really kind of lucky, but a lot of things went well. And a lot of things that we did were not happy accidents, but like we'd taken a show that had a recognizable concept that people went to see. So it went really well. We got really good reviews. We sold out, and it was really lovely. And, it was a great success actually. And that was really good to have done. Then went to drama school, trained, moved out, got my agent and stuff. And then was into the auditioning pool. And I think the thing that no one really tells you is everyone says, oh, the rejection's really hard. The rejection's really hard when you don't get the job. And I'm like, I don't care if they don't give me the job. If they let me in the room to let me sing my song, then I'm like, okay, cool. Now you've seen what I can do. So now you can decide. I think the really hard thing is not getting in the rooms. And that is the thing that can make you feel despondent because you're not even getting a chance.
You're not showing your craft to anyone.
Yeah. And you're not getting to engage them, because I always think I always treat dance auditions, I think they're just like a free dance workshop. You're going to work really hard, but you get to do it. And singing, I used to get really nervous about singing auditions, and I've tried to really think about them now as it's a chance to just go and sing a song. You get to do a bit of your craft for 5 minutes, and that's nice. And so you're not getting to do that. And obviously I was, going to singing lessons every other week, because it was back then when you could afford to do that.
I was thinking that, back when you actually went to classes and,
dance
training
times a week. I was going to singing lessons every other week. I was working my butt off. And so I started teaching alongside that. And some jobs came in, but actually I've had multiple agents, but I have got all but 2 of the jobs I've ever done. I've got them all myself.
Yeah.
Now, having an agent probably helped get in the rooms, but I I think that's true. Sorry, Russell, if that's not true.
Nothing like sorry to my agent.
Yeah, no, but my current agent is the one who got me both of those. But maybe there's probably like a couple of like little gigs, but kind of two bigger shows.
Yeah,
maybe 2 or 3. Maybe there's a few more, but almost
the majority of stuff.
The large majority
You've sought out or you've connected yourself, and I can really resonate with that. Me too. I have also, you know, mainly it's through networking and then getting into the room via that, or just
emailing,
social media.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. And I think people would probably look at my CV and go, "Oh, well, great, you're agent," and I'm like, I got all of those by just hustling hard. Now, my agent was getting me seen for stuff, which is great, and at all the times my agents were getting me seen for stuff, but I think it's just going that was happening as well, and those were things that happened. So I think building through those things, and I think back before COVID, things were really like on their way up, and we were really building well, and lots of nice things are happening, and I was sort of getting better at auditioning and getting through to things. And then obviously COVID happened, and the industry has really shifted, particularly music theatre has shifted since then. But and I do feel like it's back on the up now. But I think
it's coming back, isn't it? It's not completely back, but it's getting there.
I think since January a lot more has come through, and I think it's really good.
Yes, I am like books and blessed up to my eyeballs.
Yeah,
which is great. But I'm like, it's all come at once. One, I think we're at the end of the financial year. So lots of people are like, oh, we've got to spend our budgets. Let's put on that thing we said we were going to, and all of that in the like most basic terms. But also, I think you're right. I really, since the new year, there's just been more call outs. I've seen more stuff on socials. I've been contacted about more stuff. I've had conversations about more stuff with fellow creatives, and it's just seems like something like the bubbling is happening again.
Yeah, I think people finally feel safe post-COVID to start creating some of the less safe, slightly more risky projects. Well, not, I suppose, more ground roots projects. Yeah, that are not commercial things that will definitely sell and make loads of money. So I think that's really exciting, and I think that's really lovely to be seeing in the industry. I think it's still extraordinarily hard. It's significantly harder and worse than it was before COVID. And so I think that we have to work harder as performers to stay creative, stay in the zone. I think stay loving it, because if we're not, what's the point? Like, if we're not in doing some stuff that we enjoy in whatever way, we might as well just go and have loads of money instead. Like,
you may as well just go be a banker in central London.
If you're a banker and you love your job, I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, I love it. No shade to any bankers.
No shade.
No shade to any bankers. Like, you do you, hon.
I think the performers are such resourceful, exciting, creative people who are driven and gritty, and because especially those who keep going, those of us that have been going for like over 10 years. There is some drive in you, and I think when you go into situations where the people aren't performing arts people, realize how special performers are. When we're all together, we're just loud and vibrant. But actually, when you go into other settings, the things like the discipline, the passion, the drive, the energy, the personality, all of that is so valuable, and I think we forget to value that in ourselves. So I think what's really interesting is, obviously I love teaching performing arts, singing, dancing, acting, Lambda, whatever. But I think it's really interesting when you have other work outside of the performing arts. So for example, like my fitness work, I had a fitness company that I was running,
Jiggle Fitness?
Jiggle Fitness, yeah.
I did a few of the jiggle workouts in COVID, in lockdown.
Yeah, so I was running it for a year, then moved it online during COVID for about another year. And then I had so many projects going on, including hats, which will come to in a second. And I just got to the point where I was like, actually, I'm doing this out of passion. I'm not making any money, because I just wanted to spread the fitness and endorphin joy. And actually, I was like, this is great. And I probably will go back to it at some point. But it was a lovely way to bring some people together and feel that I was putting good stuff out into the world. And it kept me creative, it kept me active, it kept me learning, meeting people. And I think that was a really valuable thing to be having alongside performing career where, let's be honest, most things are not going to go your way. You're probably not going to get in the room. It's very hard. And so having things that this is something I'm really a big advocate for, is having things that you are in control of, that you can move forward when and if you have the energy and creativity.
Yeah.
So that they're very much on your terms. So since then, I actually started the public speaking coaching because
when you were talking about meeting and getting in the room with different people that aren't like us, that aren't theatre people, and just know how to communicate and are buzzy and vibey, I was thinking, is that where the kind of want to do public speaking came from? And then you've had those experiences of going into those rooms and realizing, oh, these people need people like us.
Yeah, because I think honestly, our education system doesn't offer public speaking, any coaching in voice, breath, support, public speaking, body language, or confidence or any of that. And so I think it's astonishing that actually, really, if you haven't been to drama school, and some private schools do a bit of it, but really, if you haven't been to drama school, no one's taught you how your voice works, how to breathe, how to express yourself. And they haven't learned, well, I didn't really learn this at drama school. I've learned it from my own grit and studying since. But confidence, how do you manage nerves? How do you manage them in the long run to build your confidence? How do you, when you're in the moment, overcome the nerves and get yourself in a better mindset? And I think that stuff isn't taught. And so I think for me, that was going, what do I know and what can be useful? And I think having a side hustle where I really feel like I'm putting something useful and good into the world is really important to me, but also that it's something that can be creative and is people, because that's the other thing. I do have a massive portfolio career. I do a lot of jobs, but when COVID happened, I realized that all of them are to do with people.
These people. Where are the people? I can't wait to go. Oh, do you know what though? Exactly the same as me. Everything went and I was like, oh yeah, it's all to do with people. And now the people aren't there. And apart from going online, you were like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And people were still in schools, weren't they? So that's where I went. And I think you're completely right talking about schools, the need for all of those attributes you're saying across different subjects are needed, because as we know, the performing arts subjects are the first thing that get cut in many schools, especially secondary schools. And those are the most under-resourced of departments. So I think having external companies and people like yourself coming in and just kind of weaving public speaking and all of those techniques into other subjects, like there's other ways to use the arts. It doesn't just have to be, we are bringing in a performing arts workshop. Yeah, that is great as well. But I think schools need to get a little bit more creative in, listening to what the teachers want and need and addressing the needs of their students.
Yeah, because I don't really work in schools all that much actually, because I have this public speaking I've kind of gone with, well, fascinatingly so, I'm actually mainly teaching adults who are kind of mostly older than me.
Yeah.
And they're at kind of 40, 50 going, oh my God,
I can't do this.
How have I never, they're going, oh my God, how did no one ever teach me this? I'm like, well, it's okay because you're learning now and you're ahead of most people because they haven't learned this.
Yeah.
It is, I think people were kind of going, wow, it's crazy that I didn't know this before.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's a shame that it's not in schools.
Unless you do LAMDA, which there is a public speaking LAMDA, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have both taught.
You have both taught, yeah.
Amazing. And so when you do your public speaking sessions, are they in like corporate kind of industry?
So, yeah, and mostly at the moment I'm doing online coaching one-to-one, which is actually really lovely because it's very personal and then it's actually really creative because you're listening, you're going, okay, what's going on there? You're working at what they're doing with their voice. Where is the tension sitting? What skills can we add? And then you're kind of creatively problem solving, going, oh, what skills from my teaching career, from my singing career, from my acting career, from my fitness career, from my public speaking all of those, you go, what tools can I bring in that are going to help solve this person's problem? So it's actually really lovely because it draws together everything that I am doing in all these areas. And I'm able to use these skills in a really creative way. So I really love doing that. But I am also trying to sort of work and do some workshops in businesses as well, just to kind of spread the joy and the education a bit more.
Course. I've actually got something that might work for you. So I'll tell you afterwards. Always connecting people, Lydia. I'm always connecting. I feel like I should be an agent sometimes, honestly.
You're a great agent, actually.
Thank you. I'd earn more money as well, wouldn't I? Maybe that's something I should think about.
Career move.
Career move.
Where's people?
You'll see me rebrand. And and also I was thinking about this podcast when you were talking, thinking back to when you were saying about doing something for you on your terms when you have the energy to. That is what this podcast is for me. It's actually, I collaborate, which I love. I love people, as do you, working with people, working with different organizations, collaborating, but it's never been solely on my terms. I've always been employed by someone, or it's, you're doing a project that's funded by someone and you've got a report on it. It's never just been something that I wanted to do and I'm just going to do it. And I was thinking about it for such a long time and I was like, I'll finally do it. And it brings me all the joys as well. So like we were saying, even though this is a rest day, this is what I want to be doing on my rest day. I want to do my thing, my project, not have anyone else pulling the strings. I've been quite harsh on myself, being like, the episodes need to go out at the same time. But you've just reminded me that actually, if I've got a really busy month of being booked, it's my project. It's okay to say, just taking a week off and we'll be back next week.
Definitely.
To do that, I think, when you're your own boss.
Yeah.
I think we don't do that enough. I don't think we give ourselves enough grace to be flexible. We're very much like, well, it's my own thing, so I need to hustle, work really, really hard. And it's like, yeah, but at the same time, the reason why you're working for yourself is so that you can do what you want to a certain extent.
Yeah. And I think I used to be terrible at giving myself grace, and I think I had to get better at it. I think running, or we'll come and hatch at some point later, but running such a project that got so big, it wasn't supposed to be. Actually, you can't control every single thing. So my sentence that I say is, I say this like a mantra when things are like, I'm just like, no, it's fine. And I did what I could with the time and resources that I had. I did my best with the time. No, I did my best with the time and resources that I had. And that has to be enough. I think particularly for us, like recovering perfectionists, I think that has to be enough. And that shift has really helped me. But I think as well, what you were saying, I think it's had for me, one of the things, it's about having an outlet for all the creative passion that I have. When there's no job and there's no project, what do you do with it? It's so uncomfortable sitting inside of you. It feels like this like tumultuous storm in my body if I can't get it out.
Yeah, if you can't express yourself. And I completely agree. I think most artists would agree. If you can't let out what you want to create in some way, it's awful. It's horrible.
It's so hard to describe unless you felt it, but it is, it's like this raging wave inside of you. And if you get it out, it can create something really beautiful. But if it's stuck inside of you, I actually think it just hurts your soul. And I know that sounds really melodramatic, but we are on an arts podcast.
I'm going to say, this is a space you can be melodramatic.
Yeah, but it is, no, but it actually hurts. I think it's like a physical pain when you've got so much creativity and passion and drive inside of you, and you're just waiting for someone to let you in an audition room to consider whether they might give you a job. And that's the industry, and that's the job we all accepted. So that 100%, like that's that part of the job. And if you want to do that, great, and you have to accept it. And if you don't, then you do something different.
Yeah.
But so that is the job, and I fully accept that. But I think it's finding coping mechanisms, but ways to make that work. And I think that is one of the main things that allows people to stay in the industry, is if you have things, creative outlets that will keep you passionate. Because I think some people do job hop, and great for them, we're not bitter at all. No, I'm joking. No, but like great, and that, you know, that's really lovely for them. And they maybe don't need this, but for those of us that are jobbing actors who, you know, they're not having jobs given to them all the time. It's having creative outlets for to fill and keep that passion going.
Yeah.
And having people around you, whether it's in, you know, this acting course is amazing for me at the moment, or the dance classes I used to go to, those people that inspire you and keep you feeling like you're in it. And I think as well, it's having something going on outside of the performing arts.
Yeah.
I know that's counterintuitive because we're on a performing arts podcast, but I think you have to have something that you are able to enjoy, whether it's a hobby or a project or something, or even a job. You have to have something going on outside of the art.
And it is all consuming, like you said, that feeling that a lot of us feel of I've got something in me and it needs to be created. If I don't have the access or the kind of the avenues to do that, it's painful. So to not be sat with that feeling all the time is also super important, to be able to kind of leave that at the door. And you know, and I have quite a lot of friends where I'm based, where I live, who are not in my industry at all.
Yeah.
And hanging out with them, honestly, obviously I absolutely adore hanging out with my arts friends.
Yeah.
You do just end up talking about work, as does anyone in any industry.
You get dragged into it.
Yeah, if you hang out with who you work with or the industry you work in, of course it's going to come to work. That's how you know each other. That's how you exist together. But I love, shout out to my friends that aren't with me. You are. I love it because I learn so much just about life.
And it puts it into perspective, I think. Like, it's not that nobody's job is more important than anyone else's. It's not that. But it just reminds you that a world exists outside of the industry, which sounds silly, but I think you get into those places where all you've been thinking and talking about is the industry. And I think you need some people. I mean, theatre people are the greatest and I love them and they're my people. And I can't live without them because they are so wonderful. But I think just having people you can just talk about other stuff and they don't really get the industry and they love you and support you, but they're like,
and you're like, actually,
it doesn't really matter. And it reminds you that little thing that you got so fixated on wanting, like no one cares. Like they care, but like it doesn't matter
in the grand scheme of life and where we are, you know, actually having a life and enjoying it is also just as important as creating.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have the friends who understand why these things are important. And I think it's important to have the friends who go, life exists in completely other ways. People take holidays.
I know. Like, what? I've actually got a few days. I'm actually going away just for like 3 days. This is like how much holiday I'm allowing myself.
It's so hard. Even
then I've got a rehearsal the day after I get back for a new show that I've been cast in, which is amazing. But like, you bet your ass I'm going to be reading the script on my holiday. You know?
Yeah. 100%.
So it's like, you know, we've got this kind of retreat in the middle of nowhere. There's a hot tub. I'll be in the hot tub holding my script. Trying to relax.
Yeah.
I'll be like, well, my body is relaxed, but my mind is reading.
Yeah. That's so funny.
My mind is learning the lines. And talking of scripts, let's chat about what you've written. Let's chat about Hatched, the musical. I'm just going to let you take it away because I've been following it, you know, from fruition on the socials. And I feel like recently, like you said, it's just blown up in a good way.
I think that it has, but I think that is because I have been like selling my soul.
That's what I mean. Like, I've seen it kind of go. You know, it's been ticking. And it's just been such a joy to finally see it get to where it is. And with, you know, having an audio musical album released. That's amazing.
Yeah. I think so we originally started, I'm going to start at the big.
Please.
So basically we basically had conversations about wanting to write a new musical because we did a show together. We hadn't seen each other since we wrote the musical in Edinburgh, and we did a show together and we were like, oh, we should write something else. So we had a couple of chats and we were like, oh yeah. And we'd somehow got into like feminism. We were talking about that. There there was a all-female flight crew who'd landed a plane in a country that they couldn't even drive a car in.
Wow.
And we were like, whoa. And then we started looking at some kind of rights around the world, and there were so many places. And this was 2019 when we started this. There were so many places where women couldn't vote without a male relative. They couldn't leave the house without a male relative's permission. And we were just like, oh my God. And obviously so much has happened since then.
Oh, yeah.
We started looking at suffragettes. And anyway, we kind of were talking about, you know, how do we remove it from reality to kind of make it more palatable is not the word, but
accessible.
Yeah, accessible. And so removing it from reality so that people can access it without fear of judgment or without feeling
without, I guess, a heaviness. I think sometimes if you know that you're going to see or listen to something that is, you know, capital P political, that has a heaviness in it straight away. Whereas if you can listen to something that, you know, looks like it's just going to be an enjoyable thing, but it has an undertone of political stance, I think you're just going to go into it a little bit more joyful and maybe a little bit more eyes wide open as well, and maybe learn a bit more.
Yeah, I think that was the thing, was because for like women and girls, I really hope that they're able to resonate and take it as whatever it needs to be for them. Because obviously, you know, intersectional feminism, everybody's dealing with slightly different things. And so I hope that by taking it down that avenue, it's more universal and people can take what it needs to mean for them. But I think also for allies and people who, you know, people who are not female identifying, to be able to not feel like they need to be defensive because it's not them, it's birds. And that maybe they're able to accidentally learn stuff that they, you know, listen to it with their daughter and be like, oh, that's interesting, rather than feel like it's attacking them. So
it's a little bit more removed, because like you said, musical is birds singing about their life. It's it's, you know, actual birds.
And it's it's a mythical island, so it's a different world. This world doesn't exist in that, so it can kind of exist in its own society. So it's set on a mythical island where all the characters are birds, and female birds are not allowed to fly. So Fallon, our protagonist, doesn't want her chick to grow up as stuck as her, so she decided to try and change the rules, and a lot happens, so I'm not going to spoil the entire plot, but they go. It was really important to me that we didn't do this like, oh, they have a go, oh, they fail, oh, they have another go, they solve all of patriarchy. That actually there's different obstacles, and because we did it in the audio musical format, it allowed us to not have to follow quite such a traditional musical theatre form structure. Although there's definitely an act 1 and act 2, because we're musical theatre people, and
I mean, that has to be. It wouldn't make sense otherwise.
But because it was like that, it's a bit longer than a musical could be. There's more songs. We were able to explore plot lines and characters a bit further, which was lovely. So we settled on this. Obviously, COVID happened, and we were like, I messaged Ed, and I was just like, we both have lost all our work. Do you want to write it? Yeah. So we spent. I would love to add up the hours that we spent on. We weren't even on Zoom. We were literally on the phone. With Google Docs open. Yeah, I know. I would love to add up the hours. I mean, honestly, thousands hours. Like tens of, I don't know, that maybe not tens of thousands. I don't know. Anyway, a lot. And we spent so much time anyway. So we'd kind of workshopped it a few times, and originally we were going to write it as an audiobook with songs. We did like it was a very rough, like just 20-minute recording, and just to listen to it. We were like, oh, it's just something missing. And we were like, we need dialogue. So this kind of audio musical format didn't really, we tried to find other examples, but it didn't really exist in the way that we were trying to create. So it was very much like, very experimental, very playful, and very, you know, you could be very curious and go, what would happen if we did this? And I think we finally ended up on something that worked really well. But it was kind of trying to work out how that format worked. But we wanted to create it as something that was completely freely accessible for absolutely anybody, anywhere. During COVID was the plan. So basically the idea was that anyone with an internet connection could have access to it. And that's really great, because now that's been listened to in 54 countries, which is so cool.
That's so cool.
It reaches people everywhere, and it's been so accessible. And I think trying to make musical theatre accessible and also stories of female empowerment is really important, because they're both things that people need. So the plan was to get it out in the summer of 2021. lol.
Oh,
That didn't happen. Because it was crowdfunded, we didn't have any money. So a lot of things got delayed because of that. But pretty much all of it was recorded in the summer of 2021.
just
So
wasn't able to kind of get out there.
yeah, it was sort of the sound design stage we had issues. But our current sound designer is extraordinary, and she's done an amazing job. But it was recorded like in lockdown, in a heat wave. Everyone had ice packs under their computers because everyone's fans. Our sound engineer, she was like, guys, I can hear everyone's fans. So everyone had to go get ice and put it under their laptop. Everyone was like under duvets. I mean, I'd like found some like sheets to hang up behind me, and I was like looking into my wardrobe. It was so bizarre. And I think if you listen to the album, which is out, if you listen to the album, or actually even the audio show, I just think no one would know. And I think that's so credit to our sound team that nobody would know that most people were literally had a microphone and they were under a duvet.
You know what? I feel like every actor that has had to record some sort of audio has been there, kind of in their wardrobe with a sheet over them, or like with coats and just quilts piled around.
I mean, it's just mad. And the other thing that I think it's come out really well, but that like some of my singing, we had a dialogue day that summer, but because I did so much like extra stuff, like I didn't finish some of my solos until like February 2022. So there's bits of like dialogue that happened like a year later that got recorded, but they sat there right next to each other and they sound the same. It's just crazy.
The magic of post-production, Lydia.
Yeah, I know. So it's credit to our sound design team, who are female. Makes me
of course,
of course. So that, I mean, even just that process was fascinating. I learned a lot. There were a lot of breakdowns, a lot of tears. Because I don't really want to be a producer, but sometimes you've got to do it because otherwise it doesn't get done. It just sits on the computer.
Oh my gosh. I was literally, Brittany, who was on the podcast this week, she exactly the same thing. And she said she never wanted to be a producer, but at the time who she was working with, it was her professor at uni, was like, I know you don't want to hear this, but I think you'd be a really good producer because you just get stuff done. And I'm the same. I never wanted to be a producer, but I definitely produce in a lot of what I do now, because I just get stuff done. And people that just get stuff done end up in that. And sometimes it is a little bit like, because it's a little less
very creative. It's very painful for creative minds, I think, because I think honestly, what I've realized is that it's not just producing, it's producing with no money. Because if you have money, producing is project managing, which I'm
forcing it. Absolutely.
When there's no money, you have to spend days researching how to do a new career and then have a go at it. Like, I don't want to be a graphic designer, but you have the money to pay someone to do a design. So when we did the redesign, we were like, me. So I just didn't have to sit there and hours like trying to work out how to, how do I make a thing look good? Looking at,
I've
research. You have to then try and do it. Then you have to like get loads of feedback because you don't really know what you're doing. And everything takes so long because you're basically trying to do 20 different theatrical careers. So if you have money, if I was producing a project and I had lots of money and a budget, I'd be like, cool, I'll just project manage.
I employ people to do that and make sure they're doing it. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, if I produce with a budget, that's such a good way of describing it, actually. If I produce with the budget, it doesn't feel like producing because it feels like I'm managing a project.
Managing, yeah.
But if I'm producing, I'm going to say this podcast, I am doing everything you just said.
Yeah. And you have to learn how to edit audio. And I mean, I have learned that during this project, and that's a useful skill, and I can take it forward.
It's a useful skill.
If I have time to do it, no, and I think that's the stressful thing because also you're trying to do every single task yourself, but it's coming up to a deadline. So you only have your linear time, but if you had 10 people, they could all do it in a short amount of time and get that stuff done. That's the other thing. So I think it's really hard, but I think that's why I think you have to be working on projects that you believe in with your whole body.
Yeah.
Because then every time you're having a breakdown, and oh my God, I've had someone the other day was like, Lydia, you're so present, like all over social media, like you make it look so easy. And I was like, babe, I was on the floor sobbing yesterday. Honestly, I was like almost, when you're like about to go. And then I just got an email. Spotify just weren't being helpful. It wasn't anything that bad. And I dealt with it a minute later in 5 minutes. I just literally just dropped my washing on the floor and just.
But sometimes it just feels like it's just a bit much when you're just a one-woman band.
But nobody was being helpful, and everyone was just being, not people, but like companies I was trying to get answers for. Everyone was just being difficult, and I was like, somebody help me.
Someone, please. I can't do this all on my own.
I didn't want to do it. Yeah. So I think the producing, but having said that, I think that if you can find within your body the grit, to just freaking do it, you can move your projects forward. And that's the thing, like writing is I always thought being an actor was quite expensive, but being a writer makes Spotlight look so cheap. It's just so expensive. So I think I've learned a lot, and I think actually see, this is the other thing to tie this back to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons that I started the public speaking coaching business, and I started it for corporates rather than schools, was to go somewhere where I could get we could reasonably, without ripping people off, be charging a high rate, because that's where the money is, to charge a high hourly rate, to give myself time and money to create, to put money towards projects. And so with this album release, because last summer, basically, when we put the podcast out, I couldn't get anybody to do our PR. I tried really hard. Everyone was busy with Edinburgh, and the Olympics were happening. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get any
time.
Yeah. So I emailed hundreds of people. I mean, hundreds. Bloggers, papers, magazines, free websites, 3 things for kids to do in the summer. And almost nobody replied. And it was a very dark moment. But then, because I was like, okay, if you're trying something and it's not working, you have to change something.
Yeah.
Doing the same thing will give you the same results. So I was like, okay, the only other thing I have left is to go on TikTok. And I'm too old to be on TikTok. You're not. But I was so desperate and out of other options.
You were like, here we go, TikTok, I'm coming for you.
Yeah. And I didn't know the platform. I hadn't spent any time on it. But I was like, I've just got to do it, because there's no other, I couldn't see any other option. I got on TikTok, and that has gone really well, but it's a lot of work. It's a huge amount of work. But that is where you say it's kind of boomed. That's where it's come from. It's come from that. And then me building up the confidence to then start posting it across other places and ask people to come and dance with me on TikTok. And
I know, I've been I'm not on TikTok at the moment, and everyone keeps saying, Becca, you need to for this, mainly. And I went off of it because I realized I was losing hours of my day just scrolling on it. So I need to figure out the self-discipline to be able to like post actively, but not really be that much of an active user.
But it's really hard because you have to kind of learn the platform, because it's very different to Instagram.
It is, yeah.
And but I think I've been very so I'm actually doing the Princess Trust Enterprise program at the moment for my business, and they've taught me a lot about business, and I've been able to really use a lot of that in terms of trying to move Hatch forward and being really deliberate about where I'm putting stuff and who am I trying to reach, and where am I trying to reach them. And I think that I know who I'm trying to reach on TikTok, so I'm trying to create content for those people.
Yeah.
And actually, there are days where I'm like, oh, this is really fun and creative. And there are days where I'm like, oh, I'm not posting anything. I look awful. I feel awful.
But I have that even with doing, Instagram reels. I have exactly the same thing. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I love this. I love editing the videos, and like, oh, it's so creative. Or I love just chatting on my stories. And then I'll have a week of being like, I do not want to put my face anywhere.
I just didn't want to show, like January, because I did a Christmas show and it was very, very intense. And I was trying to do other stuff at the time. We were trying to get Hatcher. And I came out of Christmas and I was just so burnt out. Yeah. I could hardly just get stuff going. And I had so much going on. And I basically just wasn't on. I didn't really put anything anywhere for a month and a half because I was just I didn't have the time and the creativity,
No.
and I didn't have the energy to be present in that way.
Capacity, Lydia. You've
Yes.
just kind of drained, everything, and you were needing to fill back up.
We did this Christmas show, we did 39 shows in 11 show days.
What?
Yeah. It's quite aggressively
That's
difficult.
quite that's a lot. That's a lot. Was it musical theatre?
Yeah, it was a kids show for Christmas,
Yeah.
at Wimbledon. But yeah, it was very intense. But anyway, it's fine. But like, I think, yeah, thank you. I survived. But I think that's going, I didn't have the capacity or the creativity or the energy. So I was just like, I'm just going to leave that be for a bit.
Okay.
I had a break. I come back to it and I feel better. So I think, yeah, we've gone on a bit of a tangent, but I think the producing thing, I think it's just going sometimes. And I think women are kind of quite good at this of just going, something needs to be done. If I don't do it, no one's going to do it.
Yeah.
I can either just email people and be like, would you like to put my musical on? Or I can just do something myself. So, and maybe, there are other options, if it had gone a different way and we did have a professional producer doing it, that would have been lovely. But
you didn't. And you did what you could to make it work for you at the time.
With the time and resources that we had.
Oh, I'm going to trademark that, Lydia Shaw.
Yeah, but I honestly say that to myself like multiple times every single day. Just to like, I do think it's such a great mantra for the healing perfectionist inside. But yeah, anyway, Hatch. So let's go on.
What's also super interesting though, it's the journey, isn't it? And it's, seeing that anything that we create, especially like you said, an audio musical, which didn't, they don't really exist as far as I'm aware. And you said when you did research, they weren't really there as well. So you're really creating something not just brand new for you, but brand new for the industry. And to hear how that process works and that it's tough. Like something doesn't come from nothing.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to be like, I'm a very open and honest person, and I think it's very easy for us to look at, like, if someone was looking down my TikTok, what people see is joy and excitement and passion, and that is who I am.
Yeah,
but I don't think, and actually, I was thinking I'm going to do a post about this next week and just be like, I just need to, or just for the young girls out there, just to know that it's worth it and you should do it. Yeah. But if you try and do it and it feels hard, that's what it takes to do these things. That it's not you're doing it differently and that it should have been easy. I think these things look effortless because that's, like I was saying, the career that I've had is because I have thrown so much mud at so many walls, and the little things that go, oh, those are nice things, they're what stuck. But if people saw how many emails I'd sent or how many things I'd put out there, and I think that's the thing within our community of theatre people, it's just useful for people to know that it's 100% worth it and they should definitely do it.
Right.
But if it feels hard, it really is.
Because it is.
It's because it really is. And even if you're trying to reach people who actually want it, it's still hard to get people to listen to it. And also to reach, it's hard to reach people because everything we've done with this project is free. Yeah. And it's, you're asking people to listen to 9 20-minute episodes. Do they have time? It's really weird, but I think you can put stuff out there. You can do your best. I hope that, because my dream with Hatch was like, would just be so lovely for like little girls to be singing these songs. I mean, not like
they're catchy though, Lydia. They're really catchy. The ones I've listened to, and like if I'm on Instagram and like one of your videos starts playing, I'm like, damn it, that song's in my head again.
Yay. Yeah. And I went, I don't really, as I say, teach much in schools at the moment, but someone asked if I'd go and do a Hatch workshop in a school. Oh. Yeah, and it was like, they'd all listen to it and they were all singing along, and I was like, oh my God, I cried.
Little fangirls, literally.
I know. It's so lovely. And actually, I think connection, this was the other thing I was going to say to you, actually. Connection, I think, is one of the other things that really helps you stay motivated. Like, on TikTok, there's a group of, I think most of them are girls who are really excited about the album coming out, and they've been, every time I post it, and they're like, oh, can't wait. And do you know what? They probably don't realize. Yeah. And they all comment, and I'm like, they don't realize how much that is giving me, because putting stuff out on the internet, the only thing that I can do to see who's listened to experience the fact that other people have listened to the audio series, let's say, is looking at Acast. Now, I know it's listened to in 54 countries and had thousands of downloads. That's really cool, but I actually haven't spoken to any of those people. So I don't, obviously they finished it, which is great. So I know they enjoyed it, but there's no, like in a theatre, you get to experience people experiencing it.
You get an applause.
Even just like, you know that somebody has like experienced it.
And visibility, isn't it? You're like, they are there. Like,
And you get that connection.
yeah.
That's why I love theatre so much, because you get that connection in the room. That thing will never be the same again. And so to have I think the connection that social media offers and going to school, and I think the connections with those things really help it feel worth it. My whole thing with the show was, and the thing that has kept me going is that I was like, a little girl needs this. Like a lot of the storylines about the kind of three females, and I didn't intend to do this, but obviously it happened, that, you know, those three lead females are all of those personal journeys they go on are journeys that I've been on and am on.
Well, write about what you know.
Yeah.
That's what good writing comes from, experience.
And I think that, like, you know, Marnie kind of understanding her worth beyond her appearance, I think that came to me too late. I mean, too late in life. And, you know, it's something I still deal with, but, and like most of us do, but I think that even starting on that journey was too, well, not too late, you know, I'm still alive, but it
feels too late.
It feels like someone should have at 15 been like, babe, you have so much, you're worth so much more than like your shape, your size, your face, your pimples, whatever. And I think that, so for me, that song, like I just want it in girls' heads that they can hear that. And, you know, there's songs that sometimes you hear, like there's, sorry, this is a sidebar, but do you know that song, Jack? Do you know Jax? Again, she got.
Yeah, I love. Oh, okay, the Victoria's Secret one.
Yeah, right, but I hear that like. Yeah, but when like, she's like, I wish somebody would have told me when I was young, or that the thighs of thunder meant normal human thighs, and I hear that in my head, and I'm like, those things that, like, that's why I'm really glad they're catchy, because I want little girls to have in their head these like these little earworms of like positivity, like little mantras, and so I think, and there's quite a few songs like that, and I think my hope with the show was that girls and women will feel seen, that their experiences and difficulties and challenges will feel really validated, but also that they get to experience not watch, was no visual, but they get to experience these people, these women overcoming those things as well, just to remind them that there's hope, that we can change the world, we can make it better. And there's a song that I included in the album. It's a very short little song, but for me, it's the heart of the show, and it's also just one of my like values in life. It's called A Little Bit Better. It's one of my favorite songs, and it's just that, honestly, the kind of the lyrics are literally this, because this is just my thing in life, but that I just think everywhere you go and everyone you meet, just leaving them a little bit better than you found them.
Yeah, that's so nice.
And I think that message of like, we can't deal with the fact the world is falling apart right now, but you can just, in your little world, take tiny actions to support others, to make the situation fairer. And that's not just women, you know, allies can just go, oh, sorry, you hadn't finished talking when a man interrupts a woman. What were you going to say? You know, just these little actions. And I think
that would be nice if more people did that.
Wouldn't it be lovely? Really nice. That's not explicitly in there. But I think it's just kind of, I don't know, I think because I care so much about, well, because I desperately needed these messages growing up.
Yeah.
I want to put them out there for the young girls that are out there now, because, you know, that thing, have you ever seen that quote? It always makes me cry whenever it comes on my Instagram with a like inspiring quote, but it's like, in the end, I think you become the person that would have saved you that time no one did.
Yes, I have. And have you seen the trend as well, where everyone's like, what would I tell my younger self?
Oh my God.
What now me would tell my younger self at the real thing you're doing. And that's kind of part and parcel, isn't it? Of like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think it's just having real grounding in the project that, I think as well, the fact that I'm like, it's kind of good for me to have my work out there, but actually the kind of knowing, we talked about, well, this is kind of what we talked about with teaching, that it can help other people.
Yeah.
And I think that for me is really important as a writer across anything that I write. That has to be there because that's the point for me.
Yeah. So where can we listen to it? And are they two different things? So there's the audio musical and then there's the album attached. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is a 9-part fully dramatized audio series it's kind of like using radio drama, audiobook and musical theatre. So you've got songs, dialogue, narration, sound effects, environments. It's amazing what the sound designers so you can listen to that on all podcast sites. There's all the links are on our website. So I'll give you that in a second. But yeah, so there's the fully dramatized series. So you get the full story. There's like 32 songs, I think, in it. So you get like the full story and all of that. And then there was secondly, which has just come out, the album, which is 20 songs from the show. It's fully remastered and extra zhuzhed. And I think they do follow the story arc. So I think that even if you just listen to the album, hopefully that's a really nice in to be able to just get into feel the character, feel the story, get the earworms in your head. And then you'll be like, oh my God, I want to know what happens. And then you listen to the audio show.
I was going to plug in and finish the audio musical because I was kind of listening to it as it was coming out on your socials. I was kind of following it at a point, and then I kind of dropped off because, you know, life.
That's
this absolutely reignited my. I might also pop the album on while I'm doing some editing.
It was just come out. So, and the album's not too long. I feel like that. So that the album's on all streaming sites.
Good gateway into the
gateway. Yeah, I think it's a good gateway. Yeah, so they're all on Spotify, Apple Music, or Apple Podcasts, depending on the album.
And I'll put all the links.
Basically, hatchedmusical.co.uk. All of the links are on there. And I'd love it if anyone listens and they want to come chat and find me and tell me whether they loved or hated it. We're at Hatch. Maybe if you hated it, just don't actually. At Hatch.
Here's Lydia on the podcast inviting trolls.
No, actually, do you know what? That surprised me on TikTok. People haven't really told me, but there was a couple of people who were being unpleasant to people in my comments, and I was like, "Don't you come up to my teenage girls?"
You're like, I'm taking them under my wing, and they're staying there.
Yeah. I mean, I totally am that person. But actually, no. But anyway, I'm on TikTok and Instagram at Hatch Musical, and like, if anybody. I'd love to hear from people. As you're saying, like, it's just great to connect with people who are enjoying it. And
kind of like, just quickly, like, what's kind of next for it? So obviously you got nominated for a Styles and Drew Prize, which supports and develops new musical writing in 2024, which is super exciting. And so kind of like, what's next? Would you be applying for more stuff like that? And is there a future beyond what Hatched is so far?
Oh, sorry, I just breathed in. So I have written it as a stage show. I would love to get it on. I've been applying for a lot of programs and stuff because I just don't have the capacity to put on a full stage musical myself right now, because I also want to start writing new stuff, and it's all been waiting and I'm ready and I just need to like the time to get going. So I'm applying for stuff and I hope that we can move that forward at some point. I think as well, something else I'd love is to get it licensed so that theatre schools and and amateur groups can do it, because it's so female heavy, which is really great for those groups. And I think that it would be lovely. Again, it's another
girls' schools would be all over that, Lydia.
That'd be perfect. Yeah. And I think it's another lovely way of spreading it and getting these messages in people's heads and putting it out there. So again, that's something on the list that I would love to do. Timescale wise, it's really hard because, as we said, the industry is still really recovering.
Yeah.
And I think it's people are very risk averse, understandably. Producers are very risk averse at the moment, and it is quite a big show. I've written it down to like nine cast members minimum, but that's, for some people, that's still very big. So but there's like 20 plus parts for other people. So we also were longlisted for MYMT development, so that you probably will apply again for that, and hopefully we'll be able to progress it. So in some way, I'm trying to be very open-minded, because I think actually what's important is that the message gets out to younger.
Out there. You've got it out there in 2 different audio platforms at the moment.
Yeah.
2 different variations. And I think that's like such a success story, from COVID times to where we are, you know, from the industry on its knees to the industry still recovering. Like, you should be so proud of that fact.
Thank you.
It's just been so lush for me, like, as someone who has performed with you in the past. That's how we know each other. To just see that, and just seeing like such positivity through your messaging as well. And you are such a positive light of a person. And just you on social media, honestly, just follow Lydia on social media, guys. She's just so like, it's just, you pop up and I'm like, she's just such a vibe. She's so positive, like so bouncy. And it just can't help but, like put a smile on my face.
Yay.
Which is amazing. And talking about putting smiles on people's faces, I would love to hear what the weirdest job you've ever done is. Like thinking about, it doesn't have to be one that is in your craft. It can be like a side hustle or like a kind of a muggle job that you had to do to get by. But do you have something that stands out where you were like, this is what am I doing?
Well, I don't know if it was like, I think at the time, we were like, this is funny. I was quite young. It was one of my first jobs.
Always.
And I did, I just think there's some moments that are really funny. I did some Alice, I think it was Through the Looking Glass or something at Brentwood. And I was being the Red Queen, which in itself was, that wasn't that funny. But then we were also doing other bits in it as well. And oh God, I was like puppeteering with this like UV dragon and stuff. But the best thing was I don't know, they'd written this song, and it was like we were doing like we're in the middle of Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah,
we're doing this like chicken song. And so we all came on like
even birds, Lydia. They've been following you around.
Yeah, we were. Like honestly, we just had like chicken heads, and like I don't know, we were just dancing around in in the middle of Alice in Wonderland. We're just dancing around like to this country chicken song, and I just still have it. The costume lady was like, we were like, can we keep them? Because they were like full like a chicken like in a hat on your head, and then we were dressed as chickens as well, with like wings. It was very funny. And I probably shouldn't say this, but she was like, oh, well, if they want them, keep them. And if they want them, I'll just see how they got lost in the lost. No one will go up. Yeah. So she's like, oh, you can keep them. I've got it. So I've got this chicken hat somewhere.
Love that for you.
Where it is. I know. I've never worn it again because it looks horrendous.
I feel like, the people want to see some publicity from Hatched with a chicken hat on.
We'll have to find it. I know you're in a bird.
You'll just be like, hi, here I am.
But you know what? We had a great time. But it was also weird because, I mean, again, really lovely because it's community theatre. Rather than paying you subs, you went to stay with people in the community.
Oh, nice. So, different like environment.
Yeah. So I went between a few different houses because it was Christmas and people had people visiting. So this first one, I went to these people's house, and within like 12 hours, I was on their car insurance, driving their car because we were too far away. So I had to drive us in. And so these people literally met me and then put me on speaker. So great. It was so
I bet you were like absolutely bricking it. Were you not like, oh my God, I'm just driving someone
in like a year? And it was so tough. And then I moved to this place it was much closer to the theatre, so I didn't have to drive. That was this like mansion, and we like had our own wing. Oh. It was like, what was happening? It was amazing. But I was like
basically in like your own sub Alice in Wonderland in between the shows. It's like your life was just immersed. You were really method.
Yeah, it was so method. I think that's why they did it.
I just wanted to put you in really different environments. Just like, so you were just like Alice going through the Looking Glass.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so funny. There's so much funny stuff happened on that. But it was great. I had a wonderful, I was young. It was really great. I made friends.
It's a random experience.
It was very random, but I had a great time. I went back the next year and did Narnia. I was the white queen. I don't think Chantal came to that. Yeah. I mean, sorry, I forgot we're on a podcast. That's what I'm mutual with my queen.
Don't worry, multiple times I end up just chatting and I'm realizing, and I'm like, well, for our listeners, I realized that you don't actually know who we're talking about.
Anyway, but yeah, so I went back. I had a good enough time. I went back, and but yeah, hilarious, wonderful experiences.
I love that. I mean, you went back, so it was, it left you wanting more of the oddness, and the industry is full of odd things. I just love hearing people's stories.
Yes.
That's a great one.
I'll probably finish and I'll think of an even odder one. I'll voice
Yeah.
message you.
No, can I have a video, please? But you need to be wearing the chicken hat.
I don't have the chicken hat here. It's at home.
Damn it.
I have to wait. I'll be like an addendum.
It'll be worth the wait. Worth the wait. Make me some drinks in it or something.
Yeah, okay.
That'd be
Okay.
brilliant. Oh my gosh. Lydia, thank you so much. You've been, honestly, again, such a joy and a light to have on the podcast this morning. And before we go, apart from Hatched that we are shouting about because it's just wonderful, please listen, everyone. And is there anything or anyone you want to shout about before we go?
Oh my God, there's probably so many people. I should have prepared. Oh my God. I don't know. This is stressful.
Your co-writer, co-composer that you write Hatched with.
He's training in yoga now, so he's
Wow.
training to be a yoga instructor. But I don't quite know what he's doing. But oh my God, there's so many people doing so many brilliant things. I should be ready to. Okay, here's one. Okay, they will appreciate this. So some friends who've written a musical called The Queen is Mad. There's an album, so it's not for family audiences like Hatch, but it's very feminist. It's girl power. It's written by Amy Claire Tasker and Tom James McGrath. I hope I said those right. And they're taking that to Edinburgh. So if you fancy some girl, I haven't actually seen them in a while, so I don't quite know the information. But they are taking it to Edinburgh. So if you're going into Edinburgh, you can go see their show. There's some more girl power.
There we go. It's more women, girl empowerment. We love it. You've got me pumped for the day now. I'm like, yeah, gonna whack on Hatch the album and do some editing. That's my day.
I hope you enjoy it. Send me a video of you dancing around to it.
Okay. Don't have to ask me twice. Thank you so much, Lydia, for being a vital part of the arts. Keep doing what you're doing, spreading your joy, flying around everywhere that you go. And we'll catch up soon.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for listening to Part of the Arts. If you enjoyed this episode or any of the others, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Also, we would love it if you could support this passion project by buying us a coffee. All the info is below. Thank you and see you next time.